but I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to talk about medicine sustainability, which has been a passion of mine for quite a while. So I'm a doctor and a scientist, but I'm primarily a change maker. And about 5 years ago, I set up a purpose-driven organisation called UMaker, and that purpose was to try and drive change to make healthcare more sustainable. Could I have the next slide, please? So a focus of our change has been this problem. So about 4.5 trillion medicines are made every year, but billions of those are never used. They never get to a patient and they end up being thrown away for all sorts of reasons. And this has a huge cost, triple problems here, a huge financial cost, billions wasted every year, huge societal cost, 2 billion people can't access basic medicines that we end up throwing away, and a huge environmental cost. About a quarter of the healthcare carbon emissions are in medicines. Next slide, please. So to try and drive change in such a systemic problem, you need to have an army of change makers. So about 4 years ago, I set up the Sustainable Medicines Partnership, which is an action collaborative of 48 organisations, and GS1 has been a founding and really valued and important member of the SMP. And over the last 4 years, what we've been doing is building, testing, and hopefully then scaling sustainable medicines frameworks and solutions to try and reduce this, the avoidable waste of medicines. Next slide, please. So the first thing we had to do was have a conceptual framework, which we call the Pillars of Sustainable Medicines. And this outlines 6 things that need to happen in order for medicines to be more sustainable and for us to reduce that waste. Now, they're not the only things that you need, but they are certainly things that are needed and that we felt that we could build solutions and start to drive action. So starting in the top left, the first one was to have measurable impact, to design and implement metrics so you can see where the waste is happening and how you can tackle it. The second is end-to-end visibility, having dynamic tracking through the supply chain. The third is to have a better shelf life. The shelf life of our medicines is not actually the time after which those medicines are no longer effective. It actually is the time up to which it was known to be effective at approval. That's typically 2 to 3 years, but there's abundant research to show that most medicines are effective for at least 5 years, and many are effective for decades. So we're unnecessarily throwing away medicines that could be used. The fourth is digital by default, ensuring we have accessible patient-centred information. The fifth is to make every dose use, and in particular to try and reallocate the unused medicines instead of throwing them away. And then finally, having more sustainable packaging, circular solutions to reduce the waste coming from our medicines. So you can learn more about those on the UMaker website. But today I wanted to just lean into one of these pillars and to give you an example of a solution that we've been developing and hoping to scale out that's really been centred on the GS1 solutions. Next slide, please. So this is one of our digital by default solutions, and it's one that resonates with everybody because I suspect that pretty much everyone in the audience has had an experience of trying to read one of these patient information leaflets that are in our packets. The font is really small, they're really flimsy, you can't find what you're looking for. And in 2025, it's I think pretty surprising that this still remains the primary way in which we're trying to communicate to patients the information they need about their medicines. And it's simply not fit for purpose. It doesn't serve patient needs. It doesn't give them the information they need in the way they need it. It's squandering huge amounts of planetary resources. Conservatively, about 100 billion of these types of leaflets are made every year. Most are never read and they end up being thrown away. And in myriad ways, it leads to medicine delays and wastage. But there are solutions that we can implement. Next slide, please. What we need is to have accessible, integrated information. And we don't need radical new innovations or technology here. We have the components, we have to put them together and we implement them. So legitimate medicine packets all have to have a barcode. That is mandatory. That has the product information on it. We know we have the patient information that's available. We know that virtually all of us now have in our pockets tools by which we can access that information and read it if it was linked and we could access it. And one of the things that could do, following on from Oksana's inspirational talk, is it could be a way in which we could check, the patient could check whether or not that was a genuine medicine or a falsified medicine. So what we were doing in the SMP is we first did a really simple pilot. Next slide, please. And this was really led by GS1 and Google, two of our SMP members, and ourselves at UMaker. So here, this pilot was really simple. First of all, can you use your phone to read the barcode? UMaker is a fictitious medicine that we use for this purpose. We don't make medicines. But can you then link that out to just a PDF of that patient information leaflet? So that was our first simple pilot, and that works. Next slide, please. The next step is, okay, how can you scale that solution? So there are, I suppose, three phases to that. There's the technical aspect of that solution. Then there's the implementation, what kind of regulatory, and then there's just leveraging and harnessing all of the impact you can have. So the technical solution, as I say, this is really being worked out and led by Google and GS1, is we already have on our medicine packets the barcodes. Google Lens lends itself to being the technical interface on our phones, and that's because Google Lens works with both Android and with iPhones, so it's agnostic there, so it could be used for all of those. You can use the GS1 digital link to go to a resolver that then goes to the company website, so you can ensure you're going to your approved information. So that's the technical piece that is absolutely good to go. Then that opens up a world of possibilities. So yes, you can go to the PDF version of the patient information leaflet, but now you've got a digital link, you can potentially access that in all sorts of ways. Any language you want, that would make a huge difference. You could have it as audio if you're visually impaired. You could have a video, particularly important for things like inhalers or medical devices that are really hard to read in information. And it would always be up to date, which is, again, another problem. It would be searchable, and it potentially could be linkable. And you could link out to all sorts of things, including potentially the EPR, and we're going to hear about that in our next talk. So I wanted to show this because it really highlights the potential power of everything that GS1 has been building, but also I like it because it's really quite a simple and elegant solution that we could deliver today and could lead to huge positive impacts for patients and reduce of waste in all its different formats. So you can learn more about the work that we've been doing at the SMP at the UMaker website. Thank you for your attention, and I'll hand back to Susan.